Right Honourable Speaker and other members, we hope you have already noted that we continue borrowing to pay loans. Next financial year, total borrowing is projected to be 32 trillion, of which 10 trillion is to clear maturing treasury bills and bonds. It is actually now 11, which finance likes to sanitize and call debt rollover. So the NRM government goes to a money lender and asks him to lend it to pay an old debt. We must bring this nonsense to an end. Next financial year, you have budgeted 11 trillion to pay interest on money borrowed, and only 6.5 trillion for development. This is crazy, honorable ladies and gentlemen, that your budget, the biggest portion is to pay interest and not development. The table, which I am not able to display, is giving you the summary of the budget. 38% of the budget is debt servicing, 11% is wage, non-wage is 41.1%, and government is just 9.1%. I now move to servicing public debt, which I have told you it will take 38% of our budget. And that's why we need to pay a lot of attention to this. 38% of our budget is debt servicing. In a report on public debt and grants read in Parliament on March 27th, total public debt is given on page 12 as 106.22 trillion as at December 2024. This, in our calculation, is 52.4% of the GDP, which is given as 202.7 trillion on page 3 of the budget framework paper. The government committed not to borrow beyond 52.4% of our GDP in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. Approving this budget means you are allowing government to go against the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility, which will offend Section 12(6) of the Public Finance Management Act. The section states the annual budget shall be consistent with the National Development Plan, the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility, and the Budget Framework Paper. On page 9 of the report on loans, Minister of Finance observes there is a moderate risk of debt distress, mainly due to slow export growth and rising debt service burden, which amounted to 31.5% of revenue as of June 2024 and projected to stay above 20% throughout the medium term, mainly due to the cost of debt. Uganda has limited room to absorb economic shocks, meaning a significant economic downturn or a shock event could worsen its risk of debt distress. This is what the Minister of Finance says. To try to clear this huge debt, government has allocated 27.3 trillion, as I said, which is 38% of the total budget. And this is captured in vote 130. Interestingly, while 27.3 trillion is being allocated for debt servicing, we are seeking to borrow another 32 to fund the budget. One step ahead, two steps behind. We should at worst be borrowing less than what we are paying. You cannot repay 27 and then borrow 34. It means you are not paying. The table again, and that's why, Madam Speaker, it was important for these tables to be available. Chinese loans. China has become the biggest beneficiary of our debt servicing. This financial year, as at December 2024, we had paid China US dollar 178.744 million, equivalent of 679.2 billion. Of this 679 billion that we are paying to China, 212 billion is interest and 13.2 billion is commission and other fees. Currently, Uganda owes China 9.2 trillion. Only the World Bank with 18.3 trillion has lent Uganda more money. Chinese loans are very expensive. Look at the interest they are collecting annually. This Parliament must discourage government from recklessly contracting Chinese and commercial bank loans. Again, there is a table to show you people who have lent Uganda money. I have said China is now number 2 at 9.2 trillion, and they are collecting almost $1 trillion from Uganda every year. So you come here to pass a budget, you think it is going to your constituency, it is actually going to China.
Honorable Nzima.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about one of the items to achieve the budget strategy, which is commercial agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture. I think one of the intentions to commercialize agriculture was to produce on large scale, and this goes with distribution of tractors. Whereas, as my colleagues had said, many times we come up with statements that we are going to do commercial agriculture, but when we look at our actions in terms of allocation to those areas, they do not match with our statements. Government had, in the last budget, intended to give out tractors per sub-county. But since last year, Feb, what happened was giving only 1 tractor per district. And this one for districts near West Nile, Acholi, and Lango.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Let me conclude that statement. This 1 tractor per district were given without the disc plows. For 1 year, they are there. Instead of giving...
The tractor was given without the plows?
Yes, they were giving without disc plows. For 1 year, we have been making noise on this floor of Parliament. And yet here, when it comes to budget, we are saying commercialized agriculture is one of our strategies. But when we come to allocations...
The Minister of Agriculture is here. We will make a follow-up on that.
Yes. So my conclusion is that, Madam Speaker, I think that original intention by government to give tractor per sub-county, that should be maintained. And we should move towards achieving that. But when Honorable Ssenyonyi was presenting, he said, though the planned figure was supposed to be 300 billion, this is being brought back to, downward to 20 billion. So do we really mean what we speak or what we plan? That's my question to government.
Thank you. The Minister wants to respond to you immediately.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the question of plough has been explained several times here in the House. The supplier supplied tractors, less ploughs because they are defective. We corrected, and the supplier is due to supply, I think, early next month.
And you will get your ploughs and the tractors. Jennifer?
Madam Speaker, thank you. There's the Climate Smart program in Uganda, where 69 districts have been considered, especially the refugee hosting districts of Koboko, Yumbe, and so on. And Marata being a neighbor of these districts, it was considered in the program. And surprisingly, Madam Speaker, Marata has been left out during the identification of the focal point person. And I would like to request that this be addressed, because I wrote to the PS, and since then no reply. I thank you.
Thank you. I want to request you people, let's not look at individual constituencies. It's a national budget. Lop.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Committee of Budget for the report on the proposed annual budget 2025-2026, but particularly the Honorable Ssenyonyi for being spot on, and I have nothing useful to add. Apart from, Madam Speaker, reminding the House that in 2022 November, this House approved a World Bank funded project, rural electrification project, called the Electricity Access Scale Up Project 1775. Madam Speaker, it targeted over 1 million connections. As we talk, rural electrification for those of us who have constituencies in a rural setting have stalled. Thank you. But in the budget on page 32, we have another good project on Oreo mini hydro power plant. I don't want to downplay the importance of this off-grid power plants. But the truth of the matter is the urgent need that the country, that we have to unlock that amount of money, that whooping 345 billion that is meant for the project, and Uganda, on its part of the bargain, is supposed to merely raise 21 billion for counterpart funding to pay or rather compensate the project affected persons and to acquire the waivers. The budget committee has allocated, or government and finance has allocated 26 billion to Oreo mini hydropower plant. Couldn't you consider reallocating merely 20 billion to unlock, this is an urgent need, to unlock this 345 billion for rural electrification operations to resume? Madam Speaker, I would have loved to proceed, but this is a very important keen observation that I have made in the main report, which is a universal
Lob.
Honourable Speaker, I want to appreciate the colleagues that have presented. Even the one who I don't agree with, it is okay to appreciate them. Honourable Speaker, government came up with a strategy called BUBU, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, and it has tried to actualize it. How? By contracting local businesses to do work. But here is the problem, right, Honourable Speaker. Domestic arrears, as by the end of financial year 2023-2024, 13.8 trillion shillings. These are businesses that have done work for government, and government just does not want to pay them. These businesses borrow money from banks after they've gotten a contract from government, and so they use that to go to the bank as guarantee, I will pay you your money. And they get bank loans, government doesn't pay, and these businesses are collapsing. I don't know why. I don't know why government does not prioritize this. You see, part of the challenge is because government, Ministry of Finance, does not even like to consider this as part of debt. The other time we were having an exchange here with Honorable Musasizi, because for him he's convinced this is not part of debt. But you see, if somebody does work for you, you have not paid them 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that is money you owe them. In simple English, that is a debt. So maybe that's why you're not paying it, because you don't think it is a debt, and I don't know why. Honourable Speaker, we are giving free money to many of these companies, free money. Atiak, Day Biopharma, Rocco, Inspire Africa, Coffee Factory, and so on and so forth. But we don't want to pay those who have availed services to government. I don't see how that makes sense. You're giving free money to some companies. You're saying, well, they're about to collapse and so on. But these ones render the service to you as government, and you don't want to pay. We need to reprioritize, honestly speaking. The excuse that we keep hearing, that you see these accounting officers, they overcommit government. The person who has rendered the service is not to blame. You punish your accounting officers who are overcommitting you, but pay the people who have signed contracts with government. That should not be their problem. You cannot tell them, you see, accounting officers are overcommitting government, so we are not going to pay. But whose problem is that? That's why you made them accounting officers, So they operate on your behalf. And so to the other person who is having a contractual obligation with them, for them they've got a good contract. So you punish your accounting officers if they're overstepping their bounds. But can we pay the people that we owe? Honorable Speaker, these companies, the private companies that have been given free money, Achak Sugar Factory, 563 billion, Day Biopharma, 723 billion, Rocco, 263 billion, Inspire Africa Coffee Factory. In fact, that one, when we went to eat, the proprietor said he did not know the exact figure, which shocked me. Because government has been giving you billions of shillings. We put him to task. He said, I don't have the exact figure. I found that to be odd. Honorable Speaker, the Attorney General, my friend, Senior Counsel Chiriwa Chiwanuka, promised here a couple of days ago that he is going to avail all documentation pertaining to these monies that were given to these companies. Because for some of them, government said we have purchased shares. So we said, where are the share purchasing agreements? For some, of course, when you to do that, there must be a chief government valuation report. The Attorney General promised that he's going to bring those documents here. Where are they? Last year, Right Honorable Speaker, when we were debating the issue of Day Biopharma, you, Right Honorable Speaker, told the House that no, let's pass this money. Afterwards, government will bring the agreement, because our concern was that, number one, there is no agreement. Number two, you've not valued the company. How do you buy shares in a company that you have not valued? And then they came here to us and said, let's pass the money. And we pleaded with you, Right Honorable Speaker, and said, let's not put the cart before the horse. You said, no, the money can be passed. The agreements will be obtained. Where are those agreements? Because we actually objected to that idea. You don't do this first. You don't first avail the money. So what happens if the valuation turns out that actually the company is less valuable than you thought? That's a problem. I hope that the Attorney General can make good the promise that he made.
No.
Honorable Speaker, as I begin to wrap up, I'm glad you've talked about Lubowa Hospital and you have promised to go with me.
I'm actually going with you.
Because the last time I went, I was denied access. The last time the Minister of Health, who is supposed to supervise that project, was denied access.
Honorable Lob,
yes, right.
It was dangerous for you because the construction was still at the...
Oh, really?
The debris would fall on you, but now that we are in the final stages, we can go.
Actually, Right Honorable Speaker, it's more dangerous now because they are putting up a shell. The other time there was nothing. So there was no debris going to fall on me and my colleagues. But anyhow, Honorable Speaker, we have injected now 774 billion shillings into Lubowa Hospital project. You see, as we kept complaining, they began to put up a shell structure. And when you're passing by the road, you can see a structure there. But Right Honorable Speaker, this 774 billion shillings has got to be fully accounted for. I hope that there will be an audit, because that shell structure cannot account for 774 billion shillings. So we need to do a proper audit. I am glad you're saying we are going to pay a visit there. I hope they will not tear gas our Speaker. Those people are not easy.
No, they will not.
But importantly, Right Honorable Speaker, we need to order an audit. 774 billion shillings. What has it done thus far? Because that is money that has gone. Each time they come here, they ask for more money. Money for supervision, money for what? Can we have a proper audit of this money? Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, our parliamentary chambers, the new ones being constructed across. Each time there's a contentious issue like there's going to be in the coming few days, this place will be full. People will be sitting on each other's laps and so on, because of the holding capacity here, which is too small. And so there's been a plan for the last couple of years to build chambers, new chambers there, and offices. Honorable Speaker, it concerns me that Parliament pays plenty of money on an annual basis to rent space, office space for members of Parliament, for staff, in buildings that are neighboring Parliament here. Because there's not enough space here for all the 500 plus MPs and the numerous staff that we have. And yet, ROCO, which has continuously been given free money, in addition to that, it is paid for the work that it ought to be doing, has not